Hello, I'm Dwarkesh Vadankar, and I welcome you to another episode of the Social Crusaders podcast series. Here, we discuss a host of topics like science, technology, business, society and culture, and much more. And so today we talk to Raghav Goyal, a chemical engineer from IIT Bombay and founder of the NGO We Listen. Raghav and his team have organized several webinars on topics like role of nutrition on mental health, impact of pets on mental health, sessions on cognitive behavioral therapy, yoga, suicide prevention and awareness, and much more. We Listen envisions a safe space for young minds where they are listened to and addressed about their mental health. Do listen to the complete podcast to see what's in it for you.
Indian scenario of NGOs that focus on mental health.
That if I were to talk about the Indian geography in particular, there were a very limited number of NGOs. Like obviously, you wouldn't believe me when I say that the number that I was able to find was like 3 to 4. Obviously, there are like a lot more NGOs, but like when I was studying up about the most relevant ones or the ones who were performing some major activities in the mental health domain, there were only like 3 or 4 very popular NGOs at an Indian geography level. That's when I realized that maybe starting with an NGO could be something which is which could be very helpful for the people out there, especially for the youth.
What is your mission and vision?
So at NGO We Listen, we envision a safe space for adolescents and young people currently, because that is the target audience we are tapping upon as of now, and where they are listened to and they are addressed about their feelings. Our vision is to create an atmosphere where mental health is not considered a taboo and therapy procedures are easily accessible to all. Because in a lot of scenarios, there are a lot of obstacles before you actually reach out to somebody for help. Like it would be your friends or your family, but if you were to reach out to a professional, there are a lot of obstacles in the middle of the journey when you actually are able to speak to someone. For example, like it could be money, it could be affordability of that kind of a treatment. Basically, let's say if you were to talk to a shrink, as they call it, so you would have to shell out a lot of money for even like a 40-minute session. That's point A. Point B would be to something like if let's say that particular resource is available for free at your school or a college level, you would have to drop in an email. They would reply to your email like a 3-4 days, and then they'll call you after a week. So basically, there's a lot of delay in which the person can actually approach somebody relevant for some kind of a help. That is also another reason why we thought that this should be a part of our mission. So coming to our mission is to create awareness, break stigma, and lend support to those suffering from mental health problems. That is the first part of the mission. Second part of the mission is to develop and provide for a virtual space where people can actually talk about their feelings, emotional pain and distress without any sort of time constraints or any other constraints. Basically, in the longer run, we aim to create and develop sustainable models of care that appropriately address the elements of mental health.
Who were the first set of volunteers who helped you start your journey?
So I approached a couple of my other friends who had gone through some emotional troubles in the past, and that is how we started out as a team of like 5 members. In that particular team of 5 members, we had one of them who was like very good at the designing part. So we told him that we need you for all sorts of posters, infographics, and even like designing the logo for the NGO, because we hadn't decided upon the name of the NGO, right? So I had him for the design, from the design side. There's another friend of mine who is very good at content writing in terms of what kind of data matter needs to go on our various social media handles. So there was her. And then again two of my other friends who had gone through something very similar, and not exactly the same story, but like something in the past, and they also said that it's very important for us to work on this particular domain, because like people always overlook mental health as a particular medical reason for the different kind of problems which a person faces in his or her daily life. So that is why like the 5 of us were the ones who started out with this particular NGO initially, and then gradually we kept adding more people to handle different departments, different verticals with respect to the NGO.
Is We Listen catering to people who are stressed out or facing anxiety and depression issues during the current pandemic?
We know for a fact that a lot of people had lost their internships and lost their jobs. A lot of them are still waiting on the offer letter because they do not have a clarity on what's going to happen. So yeah, obviously that falls that is also like a very relevant thing that we're actually working on. That comes under like another campaign that we have planned for this particular week. It's going to launch in like next couple of days. That talks about like basically it's like a COVID campaign, and we're trying to understand how the COVID has affected different like sections of the society. We'll be talking about doctors and nurses who've been dealing with a lot of stress and anxiety while they were dealing with the corona patients. That's one thing. Second could be in terms of how the teachers are affected, in the sense that teachers who used to teach like using a chalk on a blackboard are now being shifted to an online platform, something that they might not be comfortable with, and how would they end up controlling students in terms of like children might be disturbing, and like how do they take exams and everything else. So they are also coping up with a lot of new changes with respect to the teaching style. And thirdly, we'll be focusing upon the students, but in particular, who have been facing a lot of issues with respect to, let's say, the fact that they might end up losing their internships or jobs, and also any sort of financial problems which are being faced by like everyone in general.
What are the main obstacles that stand between you and the mission?
If I were to talk about India's geography limitations in general, it would talk about that India's scarce mental health resources such as mental health specialists are largely concentrated in some states, mainly in the south. If I were to explore any sort of services in the north and especially in the eastern part, the services are very limited, like very, very limited. And the reason I would call this an obstacle for our NGO is because NGOs cannot do everything single-handedly, right? NGOs do need a lot of support coming from the people outside. Okay, fun fact: the 3 NGOs that I was telling you about in the initial part of the call, for the 3 of those NGOs, majority funding was coming from the state government, right? So obviously, if I were to talk about any NGO for that matter, funding becomes the biggest obstacle, obviously, because that is how you can conduct any sort of activities. For example, if I were to talk about my own activities, which we'll come to eventually, they are being conducted very fluently and without any problems, because all of them are happening online, and we are doing it through, let's say, webinars or posters, something like that, and that's totally fine. Whenever we step into a scenario wherein we actually go offline and we actually approach schools and colleges for various other campaigns, and let's say even with respect to, let's say, other parts of our mission, we would need a lot of money for running those particular campaigns, and that is where the funding becomes very important as an obstacle. And like I mentioned, like in majority of the scenarios, funding in those, for example, the funding for those 3 particular NGOs is coming from the state government. So as I just mentioned that the major focus on mental health is majorly in the southern part and not in other parts of India. I think that would be a major obstacle. Forms of obstacles would be that there is a particular kind of education which is being imparted on a national level or like a state level, right? So what happens is, like I told you initially, there's a huge stigma associated with mental health, right? So if I were to even talk about that particular stigma, that also varies across the Indian geography level, because there's a way in which people deal with mental health. For example, like say I'm originally from Chandigarh, and I was also in Mumbai for my the engineering part. There I realized in these 2 particular cities, even in Mumbai, people were able to understand how important mental health is. Even our college took a lot of initiative in pushing people to actually go see a counselor, talk to them about your problems and everything else. And that is when I realized that at least people in Mumbai do take mental health as a topic very seriously. But that might not be the case with respect to other people in other parts of India, right? So that's also a major obstacle, because
How do you run your campaigns for free? And how is it different from those psychiatrists and doctors who demand heavy fees?
On a very general basis, think about you guys in particular. Okay, what if you are having a bad day, right? And you feel like talking to someone who's not your friend or a family member. Obviously, it's a very subjective feeling, but think about a scenario wherein you would want to talk to some anonymous person to get an unbiased opinion. Think about a scenario like you did something and you feel bad about it. If you were to talk to your friends, they would, majority of them would be supportive of whatever you did. Take care. Or they would, try to say something which is not exactly what they want to say, because they do not want to end up hurting your feelings. Just giving you a random hypothetical scenario, right? So in like if I were in that particular position, I would be like, I need to speak to somebody who's like totally unbiased, like a totally random person. Like that could be like one scenario. Second scenario could be something like, you actually reaching out to a professional to understand the situation better, right? For example, let's say you share some life incident with me. I would have like one set of opinions for it, but like somebody else might have another opinion for it, right? So something along those lines. Now, what happens is, if I were to tell you that sure, you can reach out to a professional, but you'll have to like shell out 1,000 rupees or 1,500 rupees, like even 600 rupees for like 40 minutes, would you do that? Simply like nobody would. So nobody would, okay? Because they would be like it's okay, I'll talk to my friends, no need to spend like so much money in like discussing one particular problem, right? So the major issue is, I understand majority of the companies or startups or like even individuals would want to charge money for it, because that is how they're earning money. Like they need to charge something so that they can be sustainable in the long run, right? But at the same time, that's also hindering the problem of like actually like a major constraint for anyone in general, and especially the youth. When you think about a scenario, you are not even somebody who started earning yet, right? So how can you, specifically in that particular age group, which takes up like a lot of pressure, like a lot of heat, would end up spending that much of a money in terms of reaching out for help?
Raghav, how many campaigns have you organized till date? And yes, by the time the audience watches the video, there are many more campaigns coming up.
So if I were to tell you about a campaign, they would be like We Know, We Quote, We Care, We Inspire. Like these were like 4 different campaigns. We start with the word "we" again, and finally we also had like a May Mental Health Month campaign. Like the whole month of May is tapped upon as like the Mental Health Month. So there was a campaign in place for that as well. So like 5 major campaigns we've like dealt with as of now. If I would tell you about the We Care part, We Care becomes like a very vast campaign in terms of having workshops, webinars, and sessions like planned in this whole We Care campaign, which specifically focuses upon the webinars which were conducted, and I'll come to the webinars as well. And also any sorts of workshops. For example, we even had a suicide prevention workshop. We even had like a workshop on the yoga day, and like all these particular areas actually fall under We Care, right? Talking about the webinars per se, we've had approximately 4 webinars and like 1 CBT series. So with respect to the webinars, the good thing about the webinars was that we were able to get some major people from around the globe, which is like very was like a very important fact for us, in terms of like being a very budding NGO, that we got so many people from, like, one was like Gary Young from UK, second was Christabel Lickman from Nigeria, then we have Rosina Alessi from Thailand, and then we had Unnati Hunjan. So we had like a lot of other people from around the globe who actually believed in our idea whenever we told them about the idea, and they agreed to take a webinar for us. Talking about other campaigns would be that we had something like a We Code campaign, and in We Code it's something which is very minimal. I wouldn't even call it a campaign, but trust me, like this is the one campaign which has had the highest engagement over these past couple of months. So in the We Code campaign, we try to pick up quotes from movies, or like quotes from like famous people in the history, and we've tried to post them out. So like it's nothing, it's just like a single quote, but a lot of people have felt very empowered and felt that like that actually makes sense, or that's very relatable or something like that, and they've actually loved that entire feeling. For example, a couple of people also told me that we put that quote as our wallpaper, because we release it in that particular aspect, that they could put it on your.
What research have you done to run the NGO and to gain more knowledge on mental health?
So there are two kinds of things that we wanted to address from the research section, which is mentioned on the website. For the first part, actually, what we were trying to do is, like, I'm the one who's heading that particular team. So we have like 5 people other than me who's on that particular team. And what we're trying to do is we're trying to study about different clinics, different organizations, and different NGOs which are actually there in this particular domain. And what we're trying to do is we are trying to understand what all activities we can take up at our own level, based on taking their activity as a pilot run for us, right? So because like a lot of NGOs would have taken like hundreds of activities, and they would have obviously mentioned the most relevant ones for the audience out there. So that is what we're trying to do. We're trying to read up and understand about those particular ideas. We also talk to them about their ideas on the phone, try to understand how those activities and ideas have been relevant for them, and now we're trying to incorporate those same activities for us. So that is like one part of the research team. Okay. Second part of the research team actually talks about understanding the funding aspect, the legal aspect, and everything else which comes along with actually running an organization. Third part is the one which I just talked to you guys about currently, that with the career letter we're just trying to launch a research associate program in which actually now we'll be focusing upon writing particular articles in particular journals which would fall under the mental health domain part.
On a personal level, what strategies do you use to keep yourself calm and composed?
To do is get ample amount of sleep. I think most people do not stress upon this fact. Like most people do actually stress upon this fact, but like most people do not follow this. For example, even I come from an engineering background, and we used to sleep at like 4 in the night and get up for like 8 a.m. class or something like that. So obviously, like everyone, especially the ones who are in college, end up messing up their sleep cycle. I think that's like the first and the foremost thing that you actually need to take care of. So it's very important to get, for example, from the study that I have done, like at my own, and like the professionals that I've spoken to about, they've told me that at least it should be like 6 to 7 hours of sleep, like the bare minimum which should be there. And also it shouldn't be like you slept for like 3 hours in the night and like 4 hours in the afternoon or something like that. It should be like continuous. Yeah, it needs to be a continuous amount of like 6 to 7 hours of like.
What you do.
Exactly. So like a continuous like 6 to 7 hours of sleep. That should be like the first thing which everyone needs to do. Second thing could be also arranging your meals, like the specific times at which you have your meals, and also as to what you have in those particular meals. Like think about having like an early breakfast, which becomes very relevant, like a healthy like a early, like a filling breakfast which is there. Also try to have like a balanced diet in terms of like having a lot of protein, like a lot of carbs and everything else. Like do not cut down on one particular section. For example, a lot of people are dieting, a lot of people have habit of eating junk food and everything else. So it should be like a very balanced diet in general. That's something which is very important for your mental health. And that's especially what we try to convey through the third webinar, like the role of nutrition and also like a balanced diet on your mental health. So that becomes very important.